In this video, we have got a 100 plus kill game on Iberian offensive Conquest with the M1014 shotgun using the Slug rounds. Stick around in this video. In just a second, you're going to see on screen the attachments which I'm using and the gun build. We'll go into the pros and cons of the gun, including why I've chosen to use the Slug rounds. We'll talk generally about how to use this weapon to do well, and then we'll talk about this map and how I'm playing to, of course, find the most amount of enemies and do as good as I can for my team. So without further ado, let's get straight into the pros and cons of the M1014 shotgun. Now I've got to say straight away, this is one of the most satisfying guns audio-wise which I've used with the Slug rounds in combination with the suppressor. The shells of the shotgun which come out of the gun and hit the floor, as well as the reload sound. It's just very satisfying all round, so we can class it as a pro if you want, but actually let's get into the mechanics of the actual gun and how it actually performs in-game. So in terms of the first pro, it comes in with a rate of fire of 200 rounds per minute, and this is around double the rate of fire of the first unlocked shotgun, which is the M87A1, coming in at around 90 to 100 in terms of its rate of fire. So the double rate of fire here is very useful in terms of keeping you alive. Of course, with a shotgun, if you do miss 1 or 2 rounds against the very fast time to kill, fast fire rate guns, which we've got in a modern Battlefield 6 game, you can get punished very easily and die. So the faster fire rate here is a massive help. Secondly, we have the ammo count, which is 7 at the standard first unlock on this gun. That is the maximum that you're going to get, and it's a good thing that you get this straight away as soon as you unlock and start using the gun. So again, 7 rounds is good, therefore the max kill potential with this gun is 7 kills if you land every shot, of course, as headshots when using slugs or at really close range within 10 to 15 meters. A further pro of this gun is that it's got a quick reload time, and this is very useful in combination with the Slug rounds, because with the Slug rounds, most of the time, you're generally going for 2 shots to the body to get a kill, so you're going to be reloading a lot and pretty much halving the size when you're using Slug rounds in terms of your kill potential for those 7 rounds. Pretty much limiting it to around 3 to 4 kills rather than 7 up close, although 7 is still possible because you still can land one-shot kills within 10 meters. And in terms of the final pro of the gun, that is going to be the Slug rounds, which I will come back to at the end of the cons when I compare it against the buckshot, which is going to be in the cons list. So in terms of going through the cons, the first main con is going to be the bullet velocity, which has around 400 meters a second. Now, all of the shotguns, when you've got this sort of gun build with Slug rounds and whatever barrel type you can go for, generally you're going to get 300 to 500 meters a second, and so that is a very slow bullet velocity when you want to use slugs, and you're therefore going to be wanting to try to use it at medium to long range. You're still going to have to lead a lot of targets that you're shooting at, and it's going to make it very hard with the bullet drop and the drag to actually track targets and hit headshots at long distance, which is why I put great emphasis when going through the pros list of hitting 2 body shots to get kills with this gun. It's not really viable in this game with much smaller maps, which is much faster paced with people running around to be going for headshots. And of course, if you do encounter, a sniper which you manage to flank, or any enemy which generally is standing still, you can get an easy headshot. But when you are running around fast-paced with this gun, going for the body shots is the best thing to do. So without getting off track with regards to the bullet velocity is therefore slow, which can make it quite tricky to use. And I guess in terms of my head, I think that it's slow because I'm used to the Slug round shotguns from Battlefield 5, where you could get one-shot headshots up to 70-75 meters, which of course is completely different in contrast to this gun or the guns on this game in Battlefield 6. So that's considered a con for me. Another con to consider with this gun, and shotguns in general in Battlefield 6, is going to be the really high points cost out of your total 100 points to have a suppressor and to have the Slug rounds. Generally, on all of the other guns in the game, a suppressor costs around 20 points, but for the shotguns it costs 30 points, and for the Slug rounds, at the time of making this video, it costs 40 points. So in total, just for these 2 attachments, it's costing you 70 out of your 100 potential points, which does then limit your choice for ammunition, a laser sight, a flashlight, etc. But overall, this gun build does work. You don't really need a laser for hipfire accuracy, As you can see, it's accurate enough, and the majority of the time, because you're using slugs, you're going to be wanting to aim down sights anyways. Lastly, in terms of the cons of this gun, it is going to be the buckshot. Now, when you are using the buckshot on this gun, it makes it feel, or pretty much does have, a really inconsistent damage model, whereby it feels like every other shot that you're shooting at target, even if your sight is 90% on target, still ends up with 7 or 8 damage, for a lot of the shots which you're doing, which is very frustrating, because 7 to 8 damage is almost like doing no damage at all, and it's going to get you killed a lot. And this is extra frustrating because the damage drop-off with this gun is huge, that when you're using buckshot, you need to get so close that almost the barrel is pretty much in the enemy's mouth or touching the enemy's body to make sure you get the one-shot kill. So again, that is very frustrating when it comes to using the buckshot, and because of the damage drop-off at range, and the range you need to be at to ensure you're getting one-shot kills. And that is therefore why I've chosen to use the slug rounds on this shotgun. Even though it can be really tricky and difficult to use, it brings that consistency and stability of the damage model, whereby from 10 up to 30 meters, maybe even slightly longer, you can get consistent damage wherever you hit the enemy of 50 to 75 damage, which is therefore going to be 2 shots to kill, which is quite good considering you've got one of the faster fire rate shotguns in the game. Okay, so let's now get into how generally I am using this gun, and specifically using the gun on this map. And I'm going to elaborate further on the benefit and the pro, which is the slug rounds. So further to what I was just saying about the slug rounds versus the buckshot, the slug rounds are extremely important in Battlefield 6 because of how chaotic and small the maps are. Now, when I came to using the shotguns, I thought, wow, finally I'm going to have a chance to actually run around the map and start being aggressive and getting loads of kills. But as soon as I started trying to do that, I realized, crap, the shotguns are actually one of the harder guns to use in Battlefield 6 at the moment, because there's so many angles into every area that you are in, and because of how close you need to get to enemies to use it, there's always a chance, 99% of the time, that you're going to encounter multiple enemies or get shot from stupid, random angles when you're trying to move around the map to try and get close to people. So it's actually very difficult to get up close and personal to actually use the shotgun. Again, which is why I decided to use the slug rounds. Using the slug rounds gives you the opportunity to actually have a chance at medium to long range, and because of the slug rounds, if you have a good position of cover with which you can shoot or see enemies from, you therefore, because you've got slug rounds, do not need to move from the cover out into the open, where you're pretty much likely 99% of the time to die while trying to get within range of the enemy. So therefore, in short, the slug rounds allow you to stay behind cover, protected, to stay alive longer, and to use the gun at medium to long range. When you do finally have to move, because you're done with whatever's going on in that area, you can then get up close and personal and still be effective with a shotgun in close range. But without the slugs, I found it extremely difficult and dying non-stop trying to get within range of the enemies to be effective with the gun. So that pretty much covers the point of the slugs allowing you to stay alive longer, because it allows you to hold and maintain a good position of cover for as long as you possibly can. But what also has to be said, as for another massive benefit with the slugs, is going to be the medium to long range ability. And without the slugs, I would not be able to get the high 100 kill game in this game, or perhaps on any other game mode or map. In Battlefield 6, the game modes now, specifically Conquest, are lasting an average of 20 minutes. This is in comparison to 30 minutes from Battlefield 5. If I did not have the slug rounds, I would not have hit the 100 kills here, because I would have spent the majority of the time actually running around the map to try and get within range of the enemies, and I would likely have died a lot more, as for the reasons which I've just explained. So the shotgun has effectively allowed me to save a ridiculous amount of time, because I don't have to run to get within range of the enemies, and can pretty much spend less time running and more time actually seeing an enemy at distance and trying to get the kill, like I'm doing here. So again, One of the massive skill gaps in Battlefield is the ability to be good at long range with any weapon, and this gun with the slug rounds therefore allows you to do that and saves you an incredible amount of time, which you can instead spend actually shooting, trying to get kills. So another reason why the slugs are so important to this gun and the playstyle with it. Okay, so that pretty much covers the pros and cons of this gun, as well as an in-depth analysis on the slugs. I think I might have gone slightly overboard there and over-explained, but hopefully it made sense, and I think it was very important that I did that because of how important the slugs are as an attachment to use on the shotguns in this game. Okay, so for the final 2-minute section now of this video, let's talk about Iberian Offensive Conquest, how you want to play on this map with a shotgun to do like I've done here in this video. So as you can probably tell, the majority of action in this game on this map is going to take place around the center flag, which is C flag. By staying here, you get a number of benefits. You've got a 2-story building whereby being on the second floor takes you off of the flag because you can't capture it from the second floor. So this also therefore doesn't tell the enemies that you are there in the building unless they actually go upstairs looking for you, which allows you to maintain an element of surprise. Being on the second floor also takes you away from all the enemies that are running around on the ground floor, aiming at chest height. So again, gives you another chance to be the first one to aim in on target in a gunfight, and any enemies that obviously come to try and find you have to run upstairs to find you or look up to the second floor to be able to start shooting at you. So again, that gives you just a little bit extra time to stay alive in those gunfights. And overall, generally, as you can probably tell, C flag is a building with so many different, small square rooms in there, which is absolutely perfect for getting close range with a shotgun. And lastly, in terms of where you want to avoid and to also go to, you want to avoid basically where I was looking there. That is going to be the most open area on the map, so therefore the least advantageous for you when you want to be playing at close range. So absolutely avoid that. I'm not going anywhere further than the top of the staircase here. And B flag generally, as well as the route from C to B flag, is all close range, and B flag is generally the second flag on the map, which is always going to have enemies trying to capture it or defend it. So again, try and patrol between C flag and B flag as the two best areas in the map that are close range and beneficial when using a shotgun. Of course, using the slug rounds, as I've already said many times throughout this video, is going to help you massively to be able to do well in the other areas around this map, even if you do have to step out into the open field, effectively here where I am now, to try and go and find enemies when trying to push E flag or in the other direction towards A flag. But yeah, that pretty much covers the video with this slug shotgun with the M1014. If you have watched this far, please smash a like for me, and I will see you on the next one.